In an article earlier this week, political analyst Ongama Mtimka said the EFF's presence in Senekal during the unrest there was merely a strategy to win votes. He says it had nothing to do with protecting state property, as the party had claimed. Mtimka joins me now to expand on his stance and discuss other news that made headlines this week. A very good morning to you, and thank you so much for your time. You wrote an article and went into a lot of depth on the EFF's guerrilla tactics, and that they were really not in Senekal to protect state property. They had other interests, especially now as we look to election season. What did you make of their presence and sort of the message they were trying to communicate in order to perhaps woo voters?
Good morning, Paul. Thanks for having me here, as well as allowing to discuss the article. The point I'm making there is simply this, that the issues in Senekal pertained to crime, the killing of a farm manager and the prosecution thereof. In the first appearance of the accused, the farmers engaged in violent protest, in protests that turned violent with the burning of state property. Now enters the EFF. The EFF enters with an intention to go and defend state property as it purported. In a country like ours, which is a democracy, with an army and the police, those are the function of protecting the sovereignty of the state from internal threats is a function of the police and the army. So when an association of private persons comes in, my view is that the gain was more for the EFF in continuing to entrench the idea that they are there to fight for black people, appealing to the general rage that black people have in the country about inconsistencies in police conduct, but also with respect to socioeconomic inequalities.
Now, yesterday we saw ANC Secretary General Magashule on a door-to-door campaign in Katlehong. And of course, all of this happens as the in Ekurhuleni, he was in Ekurhuleni, pardon me, ahead of the region's by-elections. He maintained throughout the process that he is not concerned or worried about an imminent arrest against him, saying he's done nothing wrong. What do you make of this statement as he speaks to the press and continues to say that he's done nothing wrong?
Well, if he wasn't concerned, my question would be, why did he feel the need to make a preemptive strike to the Hawks by, first of all, confirming allegations that he was about to be arrested, and then using that as the basis to actually engage the Hawks before they actually reach out to him to say, are you pursuing me or not? So for me, that's all the signs that Ace Magashule is worried, and he should. Because as we have seen, all these details now on which the Hawks and law enforcement agencies are acting are details that have been out in the public domain, and in the public domain, or they run up to him. So the allegations that he was involved, the Mr. 10% scandal in the Free State. So he should be worried, and I think he is worried. Obviously, he has to maintain a facade of bravery in the public.
The City Press is this morning reporting on its front page that there's a growing lobby for some sort of strong action to be taken against leaders seen to be undermining President Cyril Ramaphosa's leadership, such as Magashule and former President Jacob Zuma. Now, as these calls intensify, what sort of action do you believe would need to be taken in this aspect?
Sure. I tweeted a few things around this, by the way, this morning. Two things, Paul. One, the ANC has been a broken organization that has been held together by a false idea that unity, which was a political idea, could be followed through and have a party that can still retain itself as it has been. My argument is that there is no way to avoid death in the ANC, and death means it being reduced to a 35 to a 45% party in the next election. The reason that is so is because it is highly divided, and that division, at the center of it, is former President Jacob Zuma. Now, what the former president has done, unlike other presidents before him, he allowed those that supported him to demobilize after the conference. But now, those that were supporting his preferred future leader in the ANC did not demobilize at Newzroom, and as such have continued to be a source of instability. So what needs to happen to the ANC is either somebody must precipitate a split by going against the most powerful person in that faction, which is President Jacob Zuma politically, the same way he dealt with Julius Malema, or the voters are going to do it for him, for the ANC come election time, should it pass the conference without a dramatic split.
You speak about this split or, pushing towards the possibilities. We know that there's also been a lot of talk, the argument that speaks to perhaps not having just people step aside when they are accused of wrongdoing, but expelling them entirely from the party. What do you make of that solution as opposed to a big, heavy split between the factions?
Well, that's what's accepted in the ANC's modus operandi, that when you want to neutralize a perceived internal threat, you fire them out, or you expel them from the party. We know the agitations for this about Andile, for example, were coming. But here's the thing: as it was the case with Julius Malema, once you fire the person, you don't stop the support base that supports them from leaving with them to start a party. But the point I want to make is that there's no way to retain the ANC as it is. It's going to split one way or another. And so the leaders that are there now have got to make a strategic choice as to what manner of death do they want to precipitate. And my argument is that they should do so in such a way that it gives some part of the party an option to rebuild afterwards. And to do so doesn't include holding the factions together willy-nilly, because the South Africans have already shown that that's not their preference.
And what do you imagine would be the impact of such a split, especially looking at the ballot box, the voters, and the sort of positioning of the ANC thereafter?
Sure, whether it's the split or the continuing with this false idea that the party is united, my view is that the ANC will be reduced to a 35 to 45% party in the next election, regardless of what they do. So my only issue is, how should they manage the transition such that it positions some of them to be able to rebuild the party? My view is they would need to show that the party has been cleansed. So if the party has been cleansed, there will need to be a huge a dramatic event that shows that those implicated in corruption have been expelled from the party. And I say that it's a question of choosing which death is better, because there is absolutely nothing to do. I think the momentum of self-destruction was allowed in the ANC to continue unabated. Now it's all about how best to save, such that after what is a very certain, mark my words, is a very certain collapse of the party, at least there's some basis to rebuild from some platform which is seen to be credible by society.
Very well. Thank you so much for your time and that very thorough analysis. Speaking there to Ongama Mtimka, political analyst, giving us a sense of some of the big stories of the week.